The awakening heart, the morning light filtered through the hospital window like golden honey, casting gentle shadows across the pristine white walls of room 312 for 3 years. This room had been a sanctuary of silence, broken only by the steady rhythm of machines and the soft footsteps of dedicated nurses. Sarah Elizabeth Montgomery had been the city's youngest self-made millionaire before the accident. At 28, she had built a tech empire from nothing, her brilliant mind always 3 steps ahead of the competition. But none of her success had prepared her for the drunk driver who ran a red light on that rainy Tuesday evening, sending her world spinning into darkness. Dr. Michael Chen had been fresh out of his residency when Sarah first arrived at St. Mary's. Hospitable while other doctors spoke in hushed tones about her slim chances of recovery, Michael refused to give up hope. Every morning for 3 years he checked on her personally, speaking to her unconscious form as if she could hear every word. "Good morning, Sarah," he would say, adjusting her blankets with gentle hands. "The cherry trees are blooming outside today. I think you'd like them." The other staff had grown accustomed to Dr. Chen's routine. Some called it dedication. Others whispered it was foolish attachment. But Michael believed that somewhere in the depths of her coma, Sarah could sense his presence, could hear his voice calling her back to the world of the living. On this particular morning, something was different. As Michael entered the room with Sarah's chart in hand, he noticed the slightest movement of her fingers. He stopped mid-step, hardly daring to breathe. For a moment, he wondered if he had imagined it, but then her eyelids fluttered like butterfly wings testing the air. "Sarah." His voice was barely above a whisper. Her eyes opened slowly, blinking against the soft light. Confusion clouded her features as she tried to focus on the world around her. The room seemed both familiar and foreign, like a half-remembered dream. Where am I?" Her voice was hoarse from years of silence. Michael's heart raced as he moved closer to her bedside. "You're at St. Mary's Hospital. You were in an accident, but you're safe now. I'm Dr. Chen. I've been taking care of you." Sarah's gaze found his face, studying the kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, the gentle smile that seemed to radiate warmth. Something stirred in her chest, a feeling she couldn't quite name. The days that followed were a whirlwind of tests, physical therapy, and gradual reawakening to the world. Sarah discovered that her company had been sold to pay for her medical care, that most of her fortune had been spent keeping her alive in this very room. The revelation should have devastated her, but somehow it didn't. "I should be angry," she confided to Michael during one of his evening visits. "I should be heartbroken about losing everything I worked for." Michael sat in the chair beside her bed, the same chair he had occupied countless times during her coma. "But you're not." Sarah shook her head, surprised by her own acceptance. "All those years building my empire, I thought money and success were everything. But lying here, remembering fragments of, I don't know, dreams maybe, I heard a voice, a kind voice that never gave up on me." Michael's cheeks flushed pink. He had never told her about their one-sided conversations during her coma, never mentioned how he had shared stories of his day, described the changing seasons outside her window, or played her favorite songs that he had learned about from her old assistant. As Sarah grew stronger, she found herself looking forward to Michael's visits more than anything else. He would tell her about the other patients, about medical journals he was reading, about his small apartment and his rescue cat named Einstein. His world seemed so different from the high-pressure corporate life she had left behind, yet it felt infinitely more meaningful. "Why did you never give up on me?" Sarah asked one evening as autumn rain pattered against the window. Michael was quiet for a long moment, choosing his words carefully. "Because I could see who you really were beneath all the machines and medical equipment. Not the millionaire, not the CEO, but the person who donated anonymously to children's hospitals, the woman who paid for her janitor's daughter's college education without telling anyone. I had access to your medical records, but I also learned about your heart." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She had forgotten about those quiet acts of kindness, so overshadowed by her public persona. "I've been thinking," Sarah said, her voice soft but determined, "about what comes next. The doctors say I can leave soon, but I don't want to go back to that life. I want to do something that matters." Michael leaned forward, his expression encouraging. "What did you have in mind?" "I want to start a foundation for patients like me, people who need long-term care but can't afford it. I still have some assets left, and I have experience building something from nothing." She paused, gathering courage for what she wanted to say next. "But I'd need help. Someone who understands medicine, who truly cares about people." The question hung in the air between them, unspoken but understood. Michael smiled, the same gentle smile that had greeted her every morning for 3 years. "I think that sounds like the most worthwhile thing anyone could do with their life, even if it means leaving this hospital. Leaving your stable job." "Sarah," Michael said, reaching for her hand. "I've been talking to an unconscious person for 3 years because I believed she was worth saving. Do you really think I'm afraid of taking risks for something I believe in?" As their fingers intertwined, Sarah felt something she had never experienced in all her years of business success, a sense of completeness, of finding not just her purpose, but her home. 6 months later, the Montgomery Chan Foundation opened its doors in a converted building downtown. Sarah's business acumen combined with Michael's medical expertise created something beautiful, a place where hope lived alongside healing, where no one was ever alone in their darkest hours. On quiet evenings, when their work was done, Sarah and Michael would walk through the foundation's halls, checking on patients, sharing stories, and building something that would last far longer than any corporate empire. Sarah had awakened from her coma to discover she had lost her fortune, but she had found something infinitely more valuable. She had found love, purpose, and the gentle doctor who had never stopped believing she would return to the world. Sometimes the greatest awakening happens not when we open our eyes, but when we finally open our hearts.